Hello students, in the previous video we have learned accessing series using index. In this video, now let us try to learn accessing rows of series using head and tail function. Keep in mind that the head function in series by default shows you the top 5 rows of data in the series, while the tail function gives you the last 5 rows. For example, here we have the series of colors. You can take any examples of colors as your series. So these are the example, and we have the series name as colors. And this series is storing a list of different colors. As you can see here, these are the example of the colors. And if you want to print all these colors in the form of series, then we need to specify the name of the series inside the print function. Here the series name is colors. I have run this program for you, and here we have the output of the series of colors with 10 different colors. So what if you want to print only the first 5 colors? That means 0 till 4. Or maybe you want to display only these last 2 rows of this series. You can do that by accessing these rows using the head and tail function of series. In both these functions, if you pass in a number as parameter, then pandas will print out the specified number of rows. Now let us have the help of some examples. Suppose here we want to print only few rows from this series, say from 0 till 4, that means the top 5 rows of this series. Then we can use the head function. Otherwise, if we want to print the last 5 rows, then we can use the tail function. If you did not specify any parameters, then by default series will print first 5 rows if you use the head function, otherwise last 5 rows if you use the tail function. So here let us try with the head function first. You can see here colors.head. I did not mention any parameters, simply we test using the head function. So here you can see it is displaying the first 5 rows. Now let us include this line of codes as part of the program. So here also we have colors.head without specifying any parameters. After running the program, you can see we have here the list of series for all the colors, for 10 different colors. And after using the head function, we have only 5 colors. Now remember that head function will display only top 5 rows of the series. So here I am just writing a comment for you to remember, to keep in mind that the head function will display the first 5 rows of a series. Now what if we don't want to print the first 5 rows? We don't want to print the first top 5 rows, but we want the last 5 rows. So in order to do that, you can use the tail function without specifying any parameter. As shown here, I am using the tail function. So here you can see the last 5 rows of a series is being displayed here. It is because the tail function by default, if you did not specify parameters, it will show the last 5 rows of a column. And what if you want to access only few rows, example the few first 3 rows or the last 3 rows? In order to do that, you have to specify the parameters inside the head function for accessing the top rows, otherwise in the tail function for accessing the last rows. So here we are trying to access the first 3 rows of a series. Then you need to write the parameters inside the head function. Using head and tail of a series is really helpful. Suppose, for example, you have a series of 200 elements, but you want to display only the first 72 elements, say for example. So you need to specify that number of elements. So this will be really helpful. So in our example here, we want to access only the first 3 rows of this series. So for example here, only first 3. Now we have the output as only 3 colors because we have specified 3 as a parameter for the head function. So therefore it will display only the first 3 rows. What if we want to display, for example, 7 rows, the first 7 rows? So here you can see by simply specifying the parameter inside the head function, now we are getting the output accordingly. Let's take another example. Suppose we want to display elements of this series. Suppose only the first element, that means here we have the red color. The red color with 0 index, but we have to specify 1 here because it is the first element of this series. So here we have the series, and as you can see, the first element is red. So let us run this program. Now here you can see we are getting the red color. It is because the first row of this series is red. Keep in mind that here we are passing a parameter, not an index. Now let us try using the tail function. Suppose here we want to display the last 3 rows of this series, we can use the tail function. Now you can see the output here, 7, 8 and 9 are the last 3 rows of the original series. As you can see here, we have this series of colors, and if we want to display only the last 3 rows of this series, then we can use the tail function along with the parameters. So here we have the last 3 rows of the series. Now what if you want to display or to access the last 5 rows of the series? In order to access the last 5 rows of the series, the simple way of doing it is by using the tail function without any parameters, because by default the tail function will display the last 5 rows of the series. Now here we have the output of the last 5 rows because we are using the tail function. If you did not specify 5 also in the tail function, you will get the output of those 5 rows because by default the tail function will display the last 5 rows. Now what if we want to access the last row of the series? Here we have 10 elements in this series. The index are from 0 till 9. 9th is the index of the last elements in the series, whereas the position of the last elements is 10 because there are 10 elements. You might think that it can be 9 or 10 to access the last row of the series, because here, as you can see here, the series is of 10 elements and the index is from 0 till 9. So it can be either 9 or 10 or any of the index or the position of these elements. But you are wrong. The last element of a series index is 1 because it is counting from bottom to top. You start counting here from 9 to 1. So the first position from down, that means the last row of the series, is 1 which is magenta. That means the counting is the first element from the bottom is magenta and the index is 9. So these are few examples on how to access the rows of a series using head and tail function. Do practice well and keep learning. We shall meet again in the next video with another topic.